Well, hello, everybody. Hello, Bettina. How are you?
Hi, Eric. Hi, everyone. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Oh,
We're starting
good.
late today, in part because I was rushing home from work, and then I wanted to make sure I had my setup time here. And we also got the discussion off camera, and I think we just jump right into it because we get like 5 minutes into it, and then we realized it actually should be we should record this and put this on the show because so what we were talking about is that Bettina, you're on day 32 of a you've made some changes to your diet, which we've alluded to in a couple of previous shows.
Yeah,
But
I
I
think
don't think
so.
we went into details. And so I'm really interested in what your feelings are being on this new, some things that you're cutting out. So I'll just let you take over from there. Like what did you cut out and why?
Okay. So, yeah, like you said, I'm on day 32. So about a month ago, I was not feeling great, feeling tired. I'd go for a walk and I'd get most of the way through the walk, and then all of a sudden I'd be like really depleted of energy, and I was gaining weight, and I just got really fed up with it. I Peter and I watched a movie called What's with Wheat prior to that, and it talked about genetically modified wheat and white flour and things like that, and how they're really hard to digest and how it causes inflammation in the body. And I was having what I thought were indications of inflammation, like my face was breaking out, and the gaining of weight, which was probably just fluids from like was when there's inflammation, then fluid tends to gather to protect the area of inflammation, right? And and I thought, you know what, I don't mind staying the same weight, but I do not want it to keep climbing. I don't want to get to the point where I'm 200 pounds and then it seems so huge to lose the weight. I want to correct it right now. So then we watched a movie called something about sugar. This guy who ate a very healthy diet, did not really eat sugar, and he did an experiment where he ate the way the normal average North American. He was Australian, so Australians and North Americans eat. A lot of processed foods, a lot of sugar. It was something like 40 grams of sugar a day, which is a lot. Um, and he had all these medical tests done first, was very healthy, everything was good. After 2 months of doing this sugar diet, he felt he felt lethargic. He couldn't exercise because he just didn't feel like it. He gained 19 pounds. He was craving the sugar all the time. He was always hungry but never feeling full, and all these different things. Plus, at the end of it, when they did all the same medical tests over again, the difference was like really extreme. Like the doctor said to him, "You already have fatty liver just from those 2 months of eating this kind of food." So I thought, you know what? Maybe that's really what I need right now. And, the whole thing about inflammation and how it causes inflammation and how it's so bad for you. And so I thought, okay, I can do it for 30 days. I can completely cut out sugar and white, white flour, but I decided to do all wheat just because I felt it would be easier than trying to just eat a little bit of, and I want to give my body a real rest from all those hard to digest foods. And I knew I'd have to go cold turkey because I can't just do things part way. And I know I'm okay with doing it cold turkey, so I did. And being a good little 5 Enneagram, I'm always in my head on analyzing body, and that body awareness is really all in my head and not the experience of body. So, I mean, I could tell you all the different withdrawal symptoms I had as the weeks went on. Um, I won't go into that, but some of the things that I have noticed are I'm sleeping through the night. I feel like I'm a baby. I'm sleeping through the night finally. But I'm sleeping through the night. So before my sleep was being interrupted for some reason, and I was waking up between 3 and 4 every night, going back to sleep, but still waking up. And so I'm not having that anymore. Then around week 2 or 3, like I was saying to you earlier, I was eating dinner and I thought, wow, I made a really good dinner one day. And it's not like, pat myself on the back, but it was kind of one of those things like sometimes when you make a meal, everything just sort of comes together and it just that day happens to taste fantastic, right? The combination of foods and the right amount of salt and pepper and spices and herbs and whatever, and it just tastes really good. And so that was kind of what I put it down to. And then the next day it was the same thing. It was like, wow, another really great meal I made tonight. And then I realized my taste buds had been dulled by the sugar. And this is not apparently an uncommon thing because, I Google everything, but but it's apparently not uncommon. And because I wasn't eating sugar and needing that really intense sweet flavor, I was actually tasting the different flavors and the sort of subtleties and the all the really, really good flavor of the food I was eating. And I said to Peter today, I made a quick salad with some tuna in it for lunch. And I'm eating the salad and I'm saying to him, even this salad that I just kind of threw together and didn't even really take too much time on tastes really good. And it was really just, the boring old lettuce and cucumber and tomato and celery and whatever, and an oil and vinegar dressing. So it wasn't even anything spectacular. But it tasted so much better. And I'm like so getting into that whole idea that you're tasting different flavors. It's not just about the sweet. I'm not as hungry. My anxiety level, which had gotten pretty high for a while there, has dropped to almost nothing. I have the odd little thing, but I mean, that's to me is normal. What I was having before just didn't seem normal. That's dropped. I have less hot flashes, and I'm not as hungry. Like I'm not hungry all the time. I don't get that 3 o'clock, oh my God, I need something to eat kind of dip. I'm just eating at meals. Once in a while, I'll have a snack, but I'm eating my 3 meals, and it's a huge, huge change. But it's also made me more aware of that thoughtless, mindless, putting things into my mouth just to fill a craving, a need, a void, whatever it is. Because I'm not eating the sugar, I don't need to keep that sugar level up in my body. Now, I'm eating fruit and everything, so it's not like I'm not having anything sweet, but not that intense sugar that I was getting, because I'm a candy-holic. I mean, I like my candy. I really do. And I got to the point where I would go to the bulk barn and I would buy just a tiny little bit, because I know that if I buy a lot, I will eat it till it's gone. That's my addiction, right? And there's a square of caramel that I made at Christmas time, all wrapped up, sitting on the counter, and I look at it every once in a while, like I forget about it, right? But every once in a while, I look over at the counter and I go, I could have some of that. And then no, I don't want to undo what I've done so far. Now, does that mean I'm never going to eat sugar again? Probably not. But I really want to get a good foundation down so that I can do it more mindfully and more moderately. And when I do start eating wheat again, eat more whole grains rather than the white flour on a regular basis. And yes, I like to bake. So, there's going to be baking, and I just have to know that I don't have to have a humongous piece. I can have a small piece and be satisfied, and that I don't have to cave into the cravings that come up, if by chance I do that. So, I mean, it's it's like this awareness about food that you'd think I'd have by now, but I didn't really have. And the impact of food and the reasons why we eat what we eat, right? Um, I mean, Peter's a chocoholic, so that's his sort of drug of choice. And
Yeah.
and sugar really is a drug. The
Mm-hmm.
withdrawal symptoms are real. They're definitely real. And they can take a long time depending on how long you've been doing this to yourself. So I change things up. I'm taking probiotics again, and because that helps to build things up, and I feel better, and I feel more in a place where I can actually embrace the experiences of life rather than be feeling like I am ruled by the cravings that I have. And I think that in itself is interesting across the board, whether it's sugar or relationships or a drink or drugs
Yeah.
or any kind of food. I really believe that you become more aware of the whole dynamic of how we feed ourselves, how we self-medicate in whatever way we choose is going to be our method of self-medication. And I think we all do it. And I think it's not until we step back and push it away that we really can enter into the awareness of what's going on and deal with it and heal it and be more connected to our loving presence. So it's been a very, so far, interesting experience on many, many levels, physically, emotionally, spiritually. It's like, there's many, many benefits of having done this. And my 30 days are up. Obviously, I'm on day 32, but I'm still, like, I went out for tea with my cousins and my mom yesterday, and I was like, oh my God, like they're going out for tea, like English tea, with the scones and the goodies and the tea and the whole thing. And I actually went to the website of the place we went ahead of time, and I looked to see if they had anything else besides that. And they did. So I was like, oh, okay, good. So even that idea of preparing myself ahead of time is not something like I would get very easily pulled into.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, you guys are having it, I'm having it. It's that sense of lack, that sense of
Yes.
deprivation that we think is happening, and as if we will never taste the sweetness of life. And I really think sometimes it has to do with that, the sweetness of life, where we're missing. And so we look for it in sugar or the suffering that we're feeling, and we look to numb it with alcohol or drugs. It's all very much connected and related, and it's been a really good experience. So I had a little frittata with salad yesterday and my tea, and that was really quite enjoyable. And I focus more on the company and the visiting than I did on the food, which is a very un-Italian thing to do, as you know.
Yes.
Because it's all about the food, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to keep going as long as I can. I'm not saying that I haven't had any sugar, because that would be, I would only be fooling myself. I made some ice cream last week and I tasted it, but I tasted it. I didn't sit down and go, I have to have a bowl of ice cream. And with all the egg whites that were left from making the ice cream, I made an angel food cake, and it was hilarious because Peter and Allison took, a nice big honking piece of, and with the ice cream, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
fruit and stuff. And then I sliced, just to say I tasted it, I sliced a piece that was like paper thin. You could see through it just to taste it. And that was enough. That was enough. Now, you know, I can't be all, um, bragging and, oh, look at me. Because I can't say that in a month from now I'm not going to have a whole honkin' want a whole honkin' piece and eat a
Yeah.
whole honkin' piece 3 days in a row. I can't say that because I don't know yet how I'm going to sort of ease myself back into our lifestyle. Um, I don't know, but I'm going to keep going because I want to lose some more weight. I want to just lose enough weight. I don't want to be a twig. I've never been a twig. It's just not, I wouldn't recognize myself. But I do want to be at the weight that I feel most comfortable at, which is not really thin. And I just feel better at that weight, physically, emotionally, whatever. Yeah, it's been really interesting, really, really interesting. Um,
I love this process of experimenting. Um, sometimes I think we words can make a really big effect on our emotions and how we view something in life, all over life, but especially, when it comes to things like dieting. I think it's important to because a diet implies so much, and you talk about like that, what's so difficult about weight loss for myself and for all sorts of people is that that missing out, like going to tea and not being able to partake, and you're spending good money to go for an English tea, like a whole setup, and to not fully take advantage of the scones, or to go somewhere for pasta, or to go for ice cream, or whatever it is, and that missing out as part of lifestyle is what makes it really difficult, along with the things that you said about like chasing flavor, feeling full, limiting ourselves. All these things make it really difficult. And I think using the word experiment, I think is just so much better. And the first time I came across was Steve Pavlina has a personal development blog, and he's excellent, and he's famous for doing all sorts of experiments with his life, whether it be dropping sugar, or whether it be going on a biphasic sleep schedule, sleeping twice in a day for 4 hours and then 2.5, as opposed to sleeping for 8, because you see the studies show, and how deep is your sleep after 5-6 hours. It gets less and less, and so it just tries things. And I really attached to that. That's maybe about 5-6 years ago I found him, and then doing it in your own life, I think it's so powerful, because you call it an experiment. And I think the way that you categorized, or the way that you talked about, I can't say that in 3 weeks from now I'm not going to have a big piece of cake. I don't know, but for now, I'm experimenting. I'm on day X, I'm on day whatever, and I think that's such a more intelligent and loving way to make changes in our lives, by just calling them experiments, and that way we don't. Because sometimes what happens is also when we fail at this thing that we've committed to, then we give ourselves all sorts of pain, and then we slingshot back. And I think just calling things experiments, and I also think it develops a muscle in us too, where it's I think one of the biggest problems we face is that, like, that collective pull. When you say that pull back to lifestyle, and we can get so seduced by what's normal, or what's been normalized in our culture, or in our society, and going through exercises of experimenting, like, kind of strengthen the muscle where we can pull ourselves out of our regular routine. It gives us like the personal power to say, I'm not going to do this for the next little while, or I'm going to try this in addition to my life for the next little while. And it kind of strengthens that muscle where we can start to make changes much easier, starting from today and moving into the future with whatever direction we want to experiment with life, whether it be social setups or whether it be diet or whether it be, you know, some sort of lifestyle change or even what we do for a job, or maybe we go take a course or something. Like, it just gives us, strengthens that muscle to stop doing the everyday monotonous, not thinking about it. It makes us conscious about our choices in life. And I know that's something that I mean, you called your group Conscious Living Group, and living life consciously is such a huge key to giving ourselves our power back, to deciding what is right for us. And when you decide what is right for you become a person of more integrity, because you become, you know, a unique individual with their own sets of values, rather than just swallowing the values of everybody around us and swallowing expectations of society and individuals in our life.
Yeah, I think it's true. I think if when we get into those patterns of just, you know, I know people are really into the whole idea of rituals and stuff, and that, you know, I get up every morning and I do my meditation and I do my journaling and I do this and I do that. I get that. But I think when we get stuck into doing the same thing every day, it's not mindful anymore. It just becomes a habit, and it's not always, it's sometimes just a thoughtless, you're doing it by rote. You're not really being mindful about it. And I think changing things up, so, you know, instead of meditating in the morning, you know, go for a walk in the morning, or, you know, instead of getting up and looking at Facebook right away, get up and meditate instead. Or, you know, just like you said, trying different things and changing things up. It keeps life more interesting, and it also keeps you in a more mindful place, because you have to really be aware and be conscious of what you're doing when you're doing something new, when you're starting a new pattern. You really have to be conscious of it. It's like, you know, when you quit smoking, you have to get up in the morning and remember, oh yeah, the first thing I do when I get up is not have a cigarette. I have to be really mindful of that. Or whatever it is that you want to change up. And so I think the mindfulness is a huge, huge part of it. And I think that as far as eating goes, and, you know, trying to lose weight or being overweight or whatever it is, whatever the reason is that you want to do it, it's really about that mindfulness of it. It's not about what you eat or what you don't eat. It's being mindful about the things that you're eating. It's about making mindful choices, not just saying, oh, I come home from work, I can't be bothered, I'm just going to order a pizza. Mm-hmm. You know, once you become more mindful, then you're planning your meals a little better because you're being more mindful about it. And ordering a pizza, I mean, face it, people, ordering a pizza, there's no really planning or thought process or mindfulness put into ordering a pizza. I'm sorry, there just isn't. Not that I don't like a good pizza. Mind you, I don't order it, I make it, but that's beside the point. It's about being mindful about it, like saying, okay, I've been really good about not eating wheat and not eating sugar for the 30 days I said I was going to do it. Now, I need to decide if I want to make the choice. Like, my brother's coming and he's a vegetarian, so it sort of changes up how we'll eat to some degree, but not fully, because I'll just, whatever, if I'm making meat for us, he'll eat fish. So I'll replace that with fish or something, right? But there's this really nice pasta salad that Peter and I like to have for dinner sometimes, and it's got vegetables and cheese in it, and of course pasta. So I'm thinking, well, I could make that when my brother's here. But then it's got pasta. So I bought some whole wheat pasta today, and I will, set that as one of my choices to have it. So I'm being very mindful about it. I'm saying, okay, I'm going to allow myself to have that one day while they're here. And then the rest of the days I can have, my usual food that I always make, which is vegetables and meat and potato or rice or whatever. And so it becomes, you do become more mindful of it. It's just like, it's no different than doing A Course in Miracles, really, and applying it to your daily life. You apply it to all aspects of your life. You apply it to the way you eat, the way you get ready for bed at night, the way you, clean your house or do your laundry or make your meals or whatever it is. There is a certain amount of awareness. Like I go out into the garden and I'm like, oh my God, I've got this smorgasbord of vegetables that, any of which I could pick for dinner tonight. And to me, that's a joy because I go out there and I'm actually picking it and I'm bringing it in the house and I have to clean it and I have to, get rid of the tops of the carrots and the beets and whatever. It's much more mindful than going to the grocery store and throwing all the stuff in the cart, which I do in the winter. I mean, it's not my favorite thing to do, but there's more meaning to what we do when we're mindful about it. I guess that's really what I'm getting at. And it gives our life a richness, I think, that we wouldn't normally have if we're just doing everything by rote and by habit.
Oh, I totally agree. And I think that is how life gets away from us is those moments. And I mean, my goodness, I've been absolutely guilty of this, where it's like you get home from a long day, and I work with my body and I play sports, and I get home and I'm tired, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to make dinner. So Wednesday, it's wing night down at this place. So let's just go get a couple pounds of wings. And lo and behold, you have a beer, or you have some pop, and you've made a really poor choice. Or it's late at night and you're tired and you always want to order a pizza because somebody else will make it and somebody else will drive it to your front door, and it's just so easy. And while that can absolutely be a treat, there's nothing wrong with doing that, but we need to make sure that we do that consciously, and we do that mindfully. Because if we don't do it mindfully, and that just goes for food, I really see this a lot in relationships too, where it's
Yep.
you get home, hey, what do you want to do tonight? I don't know, I'm tired. Let's see what's on Netflix. Let's eat some chips because we don't want to cook, and then we eat some chips, and then we don't feel so good, but we're still not full, and then we're like, let's have some ice cream or something, and we'll call it a night.
Yeah.
And then it goes hand in hand with diet and relationship. It's like you got to stay in create. One of the great things about it is that it keeps you in creation. And when you stay in creation, like you talk about going out into the garden and picking what it is, like it's an active, like you're creating it. And it's so important. And sometimes it's difficult in our careers too, because sometimes some of our jobs, we're not in creation all the time. We are doing the same rote things most of the time. And if we fall out of creation, whether it be with our passions, with our work, with our relationships, with our diet, that is where we just trail off. And we wake up one day, and yeah, we haven't had a great relationship for a few years. We're 50 pounds overweight. We're uninspired, and it's just all of a sudden, oh my God, my whole life is blasé,
Mm-hmm.
and it's because we've fallen out of creation. And we have to fight that urge to entropy, because it's so easy, but it's also part of our nature, because it's important for like our 2,000-year-old brain to seek out things that are easy, because if you struggle too much, that's not good either. But in our society nowadays, with the abundance that we have, um, it's an overwhelming pull to entropy, or you go to the doctor, or something hurts and you go to the doctor and you realize, oh my God, something's happened from the inside out. I have some dis-ease, um, caused by dis-ease, um, and we have to stay on the forefront of creation. It's so important. One more thing I want to talk about the experiment, though, is that it's so encouraging to do experiments in life, because you, even if they aren't completely sustainable, like I want to be a hardcore vegan, and props to the people who can do it. But to do it for 20 days, to see what it's like, to see what it entails, to see the prep that's required, to teach yourself, and then also because you have a real deep understanding of what it meant to you, like what the changes felt like. It's one thing to read in a book or to hear Dr. Oz say something like, "Hey, this is a way to increase your energy," but until you do it and feel it in your bones, it's just all conceptual. It's all in your head. And so when you do experiments, whether they're far out there or just simple things that we add or take out of our lives, we can really feel a difference. And even if we don't continue it for the rest of our lives at that level, we have a real anchor to positive change, and we can incorporate some to varying levels in our life for the rest of the way. But at least we know in our bones how good something is for us, and that makes it a lot easier to shade into that area more and more as we continue with our lives.
Yeah, I totally agree. It was interesting because Peter and I were having this conversation the other day. Yeah, he comes home from work, we have dinner, then we sit and watch TV. It's like, what do you want to do tonight? Oh, let's just watch TV. And it's like, there's nothing on. There's really nothing on. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you're desperate to find something decent to watch. Because we're probably picky about what we watch too. But the other day he came home at lunchtime and he says, I could go and work this afternoon, but I don't really have to. I thought I'd take the afternoon off. And I was like, he said, I thought maybe we could go somewhere. And I was like, then I'm like racking my brain. Where can we go? And it's like you get into that sort of lethargic sort of do nothing state that you can't even think of something to do when you have the opportunity. And then all of a sudden, Elora Gorge popped into my head, and I went, Elora Gorge. We haven't been to Elora Gorge together. So I said to him, do you want to go out to Elora Gorge? And he goes, sure. So we took I said, I don't want to go on the highway. I don't want to go on the highway. I don't want to go on the 401. I want to go all the back roads and just sort of meander our way up to Elora Gorge. And Elora is a really cute little town anyway. So we did. We went up there and we parked and we just sort of walked around town a bit. And then we drove over to where the gorge was and we went to the lookout, and it was really nice. And I said, okay, so close to here, there is the only covered bridge in Ontario. So I looked that up on my phone and we meandered down to the covered bridge and we went and saw the covered bridge, and then we came home because it was like 4:30 by that time. But it was, it was so nice because he's been working so hard, and there's really been no time, and it's been because June, he's been working a lot of weekends and maybe taking one day off. So I know it's been really important for him to get rest, and I've sort of made it my goal to make sure that he stays healthy for this really busy time. But then even when he's not, we sort of fall into that pattern of laziness, really. It's like, I don't feel like, and I'm a 5, so if I never go outside again, I'd be happy. So I really have to push myself to do that, to get out and to enjoy things outside of my home. But it's true. It's like even and like you said, in relationships, I said something to him last night. I kissed him and I go, we don't kiss enough anymore. It was just one of those, well, how did we just sort of, not that we never do, but it's just, not as much as we used to. And he said, yeah, you're right. Yeah. So it's those little moments, and it, the thing is, in a relationship, those are the kind of things that cause all the conflict, because, then one or the other of the people in the relationship go, oh, you never do this anymore, and you're never this, and you're never that. And I feel like crap because of it. And that wasn't what the conversation was. It was kind of just hey, how come we're not kissing all the time like we did before? And it wasn't I'm not going to feel loved unless you kiss me more, or I'm not going to, I feel like I'm inadequate because I'm whatever. It wasn't like that at all. It was just sort of a stating a fact and going, Yeah, we ought to do something about that. You know what I mean? So, and that's the things that you have to do. You sort of have to take stock every once in a while and go, oh yeah, we should get out more. We should, whether you have money or not, there's still plenty to do to get out and do things and enjoy life and not sit at home and watch life happening on a box or through a window. But you really have to take stock. And I think, it's the same with this whole sugar thing. It's like I had to take stock of where I was at, and I didn't like the way I was feeling. So I really wanted to do something about it. And it's that, recognizing this is not where you want to be, and then taking action to be in a place, whether it's emotionally, physically, spiritually, whatever it is. It is about taking conscious, mindful action to make the changes that you want to make in your life to feel better. So,
yeah. Well, one of the great experiments. I mean, if you're lucky enough to have somebody who will kiss you, would be an experiment where you just like stare at you, just disengage in one another and kiss for 8 minutes.
Yeah.
8 minutes. How much fun would that experiment be?
Yeah, it doesn't have to go anywhere. There's no strings attached, right?
I know, like $1.99 lip chat for each of you for like 2 weeks, and like these are the things we can do, and it's kind of laughable, it's kind of funny, but it's it's half serious. These are the fun things that we can do in this life, and we get so pulled in by the everyday, and we forget.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't need to eat 2 cups of ice cream and 100 grams of sugar just so that I can feel good at the end of the day.
Because
you just forget. You don't. Exactly. You don't. We just forget. We just get lulled. We just get pulled in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because we're bad people. It's how we're made up. We are complex things, and we're carrying forward so many like deep genetic habits from a time that no longer applies, and some of that throws us off. And that's a nice way to forgive ourselves when we forget why we stop doing things that make us feel so good, and instead reach for things like you say. Sugar is a drug. It is, and I use it, and I have used it a lot. And so when people are addicted to heroin or to marijuana or whatever, you can't just point a finger, because we all do these things to distract ourselves, or beat a path to the fridge, or to have way too much coffee, or whatever it is. We all use these things, and it's important to take stock, like you say, and to challenge ourselves to make an experiment where we can move towards a place in life where we invest in ourselves. Because, like you said, when food tastes better when you stop eating sugar, well, isn't that why we reach for sugar in the first place? Isn't that why we add sugar to our coffee or our tea, or why we go for desserts? Because I want almost that it tastes really good. Or why we go and eat the Big Mac, because at least the Big Mac's got tons of flavor. And if everything, like if we just put like this little bit of work in when we reduce our sugar, and for the rest of our lives stuff will taste better, like that's such a great investment if you look at it like even financially. Just like if you put a little bit of away now, you drive down your sugar intake now, and everything will taste better in the future. Well, I mean that's easy to think about, but unless we stay in creation, we just go, well, I got that new box of cookies, and I'd really like to have like
4 or the whole package, whatever.
Right.
Cookies aren't my thing.
Nobody's watching. Exactly.
Candy is my thing. It's not cookies. I could do without cookies, but candy, oh man. Well, it's interesting because when with babies, when they first start putting them on solid food, they always say, don't feed them fruit first. You have to feed them vegetables first. If you feed them fruit first, they'll never go for the vegetables. So what does that say, about human beings in general? It's like, if there's sugar, if there's candy, and there's, broccoli, what's a kid going to pick? What's an adult going to pick? I might go for the candy first. I always say life is short, eat dessert first,
Right. I've done that, yeah.
Yeah, me too. But dessert can be so many amazing things. It doesn't have to be in the form of sugar.
It can be even to kissing.
Even what? Tequila, yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's it's all how we see this, the source of joy. It's all
Yeah.
how we perceive the source of joy. And the source of joy is it's not in the food, it's not in the sugar, it's not in the booze or the relationships. It's all, click your heels 3 times because it's all right where you are.
That's right.
You
That's
know?
right.
So, yeah. So I'll keep everybody posted. If I'm here next week with a bag of candy, you'll know what happened.
That's right. Yeah, you're eating like wine gums as we do the show.
That almost makes me feel right now when I say that, a bag of candy, it's like, yeah.
It's good. I remember that. I know.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So
Like
happy.
a couple maybe, but yeah. Allison came home the other day. Of course, like she just does her own thing, right? She came home the other day with these chocolate covered almonds, and I was like, oh my God. So I went in the cupboard and got my toasted almonds, plain toasted almonds, and got a handful and ate those because,
Yeah.
I didn't even have one. I just so proud of myself today. Today.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm human, people. I'm not failure immune.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that because you learn the most from failure and you learn the most from mistakes, and I think that's a good thing. So
yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Learn how to be better through our failures. We learn a lot more from our failures than we do our successes. That's for sure.
absolutely.
How do you feel about finishing us off with meditation with you?
I most certainly can. Let's close our eyes and take a deep breath. And as you breathe into that source of who you are, that loving presence that sits quietly within you, waiting for you to remember to come home, with the porch light on, guiding you back to the light that you are, the light that shines within and is extended out into the world. And in this place, in this beautiful home in which you are so welcome, all your choices are clear. What is right for you and what is wrong for you, it's all very clear. And from this place, we can make the healthiest, most beautiful decisions that support this body that is the vessel through which our loving presence expresses itself. And through these healthy choices, we build that sense of loving presence, that connection to our loving presence. We lay guilt aside. We lay cravings aside. And the one thing that we desire most, the one thing that will fill us up like no other, is that return home to the loving presence that we are. When you're ready, wiggle your fingers and your toes and come back to this world.
Thank you, Gina.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us this week, and I wish you encouragement into doing an experiment of whatever sort in your own life.
Definitely try something new and have a great week, everyone.